Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about Down at the Cross by James Baldwin. Now, before we go into the summary and analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so the channel can continue to grow. All right, Down at the Cross, very interesting work here. Lots of things are being said within this work. James Baldwin is talking about his upbringing in America, his relationship with Christianity, his relationship with the Nation of Islam, and his views on America and how it can get better between black and white people. Now, think about America in the 1960s. You have the civil rights movement going on, you have Malcolm X, you have all types of movements going on. The time was it was a very interesting time. Let's just say that. So James Baldwin, within this work, he's and down at the cross, he's definitely looking at religion. Here, Christianity. There's this idea in Christianity, especially during the time of slavery in America, where slaves, it's kind of like, you're going to have a horrible life. If you're born a slave and you stay as a slave and you die a slave, you're going to have a horrible life. You're going to work and not get paid. Your property, you do what your master says, and you exist. And if you have kids, you don't belong to yourself, your wife don't belong to you, or even if maybe you didn't even have a wife, you just were allowed to reproduce, and those kids weren't your kids. You were property. The woman that you had kids were with was property, and your kids were property. And you pretty much were told, suffer now, and then in heaven God will reward you. And for a lot of black people, in a lot of churches, that was an idea that was common. And I mean, still to this day, a lot of people do believe in that. Just suffer now, do what you can to survive, and then in heaven you'll be rewarded. And James Baldwin's not about that. He definitely says that we have a shared responsibility, black and white people, to make a better society for ourselves, one that is built on understanding each other, understanding what white privilege is, understanding what black oppression is, and trying to create a society where it's equal and fair for everybody. Within this work specifically, he's talking about Christianity and what it fails in terms of changing the society in which we live in, and also with the Nation of Islam, the idea is separation. And although some people believe in separation, it's not possible. I mean, especially if you live in America, everything is mixed in together. It's one country, neighborhoods are mixed in together. Malcolm X had an idea that makes sense. Malcolm X, his approach was black people need to think of owning their own businesses and owning their own communities. Don't just work at the coffee shop. Start your own coffee shop. Don't just rent, but buy your own house and rent it out. Don't just buy at the establishment or work at the establishment, or don't just go to college and become a salary worker, but build your own company. That's where wealth is. I mean, when we're talking about generational wealth and all that, um, well, it's not easy. It's definitely not easy. Most people who have ever lived and who will be born, most likely you're going to have, at first a minimum wage job, or maybe you might just have a minimum wage job, and then at the maximum for most people who've ever lived, or just most Americans, you just have a salary paid job. But to really break free from all of that, you have to have property, your own business. You have to own an establishment, because then you can exponentially expand the business and make more money. And I mean, again, if I don't know, if you go to Mars one day, if you own your own business, you can open your location on Mars. But if you're a salary worker, you're just a cog in the machine. So here, you know, James Baldwin is talking about how to build a better society, and he's really focused on things like love, of us understanding one another, of not going towards hatred and not going towards the bullet, like Malcolm X would put it. I mean, MLK was more, peace, marching, protests, you know, not getting into a confrontation of any kind. Malcolm X was like ballot or bullet. And James Baldwin here, he's like, let's talk about love. Let's talk about understanding one another, not just externally, but internally. He's, telling black people, don't hate yourself. Don't try to assimilate into the white dominant culture, but to bring your own identity into the world and not to hate yourself, to survive. And to survive means not to die by getting angry, by getting vengeful and going towards hate. Because black people, when you go towards hate and being vengeful and picking up a gun, what ends up is that you're dead, and that doesn't solve anything. That doesn't make society better. If we want a better society, the way we build a better society is we meet at the table, we talk, we try to understand what white privilege is. Um, we try to understand what black oppression is, and what is that. It's talking about, maybe if somebody's black and they're wearing baggy clothes and maybe they don't have the hair that's the standard hair. Some people might say, well, they don't deserve a job, they don't deserve to work here, they don't deserve to be part of us, they don't deserve opportunities. And then that creates a reality, a society where you create a poor class based on these characteristics, and then people can't buy stuff, people can't live certain places, they can't buy homes, they can't make money, and they can't live a good life or help their families, and they go nowhere, they stay stagnant, and then they're depending on the government for basic necessities. So recognizing these things, understanding that in certain banks and certain jobs and certain markets, if you look a certain way, the door might be open for you, and then it might not be open for others. And these realities, understanding them and how they're systematic in our society, will help us create a better society that's good for everyone, where we can share and be equal and be fair, so that it's not based on skin color, hair, clothes, or where you come from, but it's based upon merit. Are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to be professional? Are you willing to look professional no matter what race or color you are? And work hard and climb the ladder that way. So James Baldwin, within this work, he critiques the religions. There are different ways. Nation of Islam was more separation. James Baldwin did not agree with that. Christianity was like more, preach, 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 but focusing on heaven. Well, I mean, Christianity, to be truly honest, as a Christian, I can tell you that its purpose is not to change society for black and white people. Although some churches have taken it upon themselves to change society based upon scripture, but the scripture has its own objective, and that's preaching the gospel. So um, it's that's not what it's for, but people have tried to use it to do that. So in that sense, James Baldwin is saying, you know, they might preach on topics in society, they might talk about topics in society, but he's like, they're more focused on heaven and things like that. So it's a very interesting work. There's a lot of nuance to it. In terms of deep meaning analysis, it really gets in deep into how religion plays within society and societal issues, black versus white. Well, not black versus white, but black and white, and the different realities of black people and white people in 1960s America, and things like the Harlem Renaissance and the future of Black America. Because pretty much what he's saying here, if we don't do this, the time of Noah, the world ended in water. But this time around, if we don't fix society, especially in America, between black and white people, it's the destruction of society, and that's why it will be fire next time. Because this essay comes from his book, The Fire Next Time, and that's pretty much what it's getting at here, is that if we don't fix our stuff, if we don't get our stuff together, our society will end in fire. And America is a multicultural, very diverse society. If we don't put our if we don't learn how to live together with all the races and colors and people we have, it will be fire, because people will just group up together and start fighting each other, and that just brings about death and bloodshed. So it doesn't really bring about a solution. So very interesting work here. That's all I had to say about it. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.